The sun hung low over the jagged horizon of the Mojave, casting long shadows that clawed at the parched earth like desperate fingers. Jack Harlan spurred his horse onward, the metallic tang of blood still fresh in his memory. Though 2 months had passed since that fateful night in Dusty Gulch, at 24, he'd worn the sheriff's star with pride, but now it burned against his chest like a brand of shame. The boy Billy Thompson, just 15, had been caught rustling cattle from Old Man Hargrave's sprawling ranch, the kind of spread that swallowed small folk whole. Billy's hand had darted into his vest, and Jack, heart pounding with the raw fear of a green lawman, had squeezed the trigger, clean through the heart. But it wasn't a gun the kid pulled. It was a tarnished locket, holding a faded tintype of his sister, her smile forever frozen in innocence. Jack's dreams replayed it endlessly, the boy's wide eyes, the gurgle of his last breath, the way the dust drank his blood. The posse had slapped him on the back, calling it justice. But Hargrave's smirk told the real story laws meant to protect the cattle barons, not the starving families scraping by on barren plots. Jack had ridden out alone, fleeing the whispers in the saloon, the rock-gut whiskey that only sharpened the guilt, and the judgmental gaze of his deputy, old Sam Whitaker, who'd muttered, "Boy, you done what you had to, but ghosts don't ride easy." Oblivion was what he sought in the desert's merciless embrace. But fate, that cruel jester, had other plans. Cresting a dune, Jack spotted the buzzards circling, their black wings slicing the sky. Below, a stallion lay bloated and still, flies swarming its glazed eyes. Beside it, a woman sprawled in the scant shade, her duster torn and crusted with blood that had baked to a dark sheen under the relentless sun. She was alive, barely, her chest rising in shallow gasps. Jack dismounted, his boots crunching on the grit, hand hovering near his colt. Even in her weakened state, she radiated a wild danger, like a cornered cougar biding its time. Her eyes hazel, sharp as a hawk's, flickered open as his shadow fell across her. They held the weight of 100 hard miles, eyes that had stared down death and blinked last. She fumbled for her sidearm, fingers climbed weakly before dropping limp. "Easy there, Mom," Jack said, kneeling slow, his voice steady despite the knot in his gut. "I ain't here to finish what started." Her laugh scraped out, dry as tumbleweed. "Well, ain't you a gentleman in these godforsaken wastes? Most men see a chance for bounty and take it, up close." She was a storm carved in flesh, mid-40s, with features honed by wind and woe, a jagged scar snaking along her cheekbone, the work of some bastard's knife. Beautiful, in the way a lightning strike is, mesmerizing, deadly. Jack uncorked his canteen, pressing it to her cracked lips. She drank greedily, water spilling down her chin, her gaze never leaving his, probing for weakness. "Who did this to ya?" he asked, voice low. She wiped her mouth with a bloodied sleeve. "Does it matter? Out here, everyone's got enemies. You gonna play hero or watch me bleed out pretty?" The resignation in her tone hit him like a gut punch, not fear, just bone-deep weariness. It mirrored the hollow ache in his own chest, stirring something he couldn't name. He fetched his saddlebag kit, slicing away her blouse with his knife to expose the wound, a bullet hole, clean through, but festering, pus weeping from inflamed edges. "You're too damn young for this rough life, kid," she murmured, wincing as he probed. "Old enough to know better," Jack replied, his hands steady from years of ranch work before the badge. But inside, doubt-churned was he. The boy's face flashed in his mind, a constant specter. Her smile was thin, laced with sorrow. "We all tell ourselves that lie till it breaks us." He worked in silence, cleaning the gash with whiskey-soaked cloth, her skin warm under his fingers, marked by scars that told tales of brawls, bullets, and betrayals. A map of survival in a world that chewed up the weak. "What's your name?" he ventured, tying off the bandage. A long pause. "Elizabeth. But folks call me the Widow Kane." The name slammed into him like a runaway stagecoach. Elizabeth Kane, wife of Victor Kane, the terror of the territories. Gunned down in a bloody standoff in Abilene 3 years back. Victor had been a legend. Fast draw, faster temper, robbing payrolls from Kansas to California. After his death, whispers spread of his widow stepping up, turning his ragtag gang into a force that hit for major heists, leaving a trail of empty safes and a $3,500 bounty that made every gunslinger salivate. Jack's hand drifted to his revolver, instinct screaming to end it here, collect the reward, wash away his sins with gold. But her eyes met his, calm, almost inviting the bullet. "Go on, son," she whispered, voice soft as a dying wind. "Put me out of my misery." I'm tired of the running. No fear. Just relief. It stopped him cold. That shared exhaustion, like looking into a mirror of his own fractured soul. The law demanded her head, but what had the law ever given him but regret? Borders for days south, he heard himself say, holstering his gun. I'll get you there. After that, you're on your own. Her brow furrowed, surprise cracking her mask. Why the hell would you do that? He didn't answer. Couldn't. Because admitting it meant facing the truth. They were both haunted. Both running from shadows that no badge or bounty could banish. As night fell, fever claimed her in the lee of a rocky outcrop. She thrashed in delirium, murmuring Victor. Don't leave me. Jack held her down, cooling her brow with damp cloth, his heart twisting at the vulnerability beneath her tough exterior. When dawn broke and clarity returned, she laughed bitterly. Sorry about that. You remind me of a fool I once knew, young, idealistic, before the world ground him down. They pressed on, sharing his horse, her arms around his waist as they skirted canyons and dry washes. The intimacy of it unnerved him, her breath warm on his neck, her body pressed close against the sway of the ride. To distract from the growing tension, she talked. Victor was charm personified, she said, voice carrying over the clip-clop of hooves. Could shoot the wings off a buzzard at 60 yards and make you laugh about it. But love, he saw me as property, something to parade, to use up. Why stay? Jack asked, glancing back, young and dumb. Thought love meant enduring the hurt. After he got plugged in that street fight, Marshall's lucky shot, I could have walked away. But his men laughed, thinking a woman couldn't lead. So I did. Took the reins, hit those payrolls to prove I was more than Victor's shadow. Her grip tightened. Wanted to be Elizabeth again. Not the widow, even if it turned me into a monster. That evening, by a meager stream, Jack filled their canteens while she rested. Returning, he caught her rummaging in a hidden pouch, the clink of metal betraying its contents. She slammed it shut, eyes defiant, but said nothing. The unspoken secret hung between them like smoke. Danger lurked closer than they knew. As they crested a ridge the next day, shots rang out ambush. To riders, Hargroves hired guns perhaps, or opportunistic bandits scenting weakness. Jack wheeled the horse, firing back as bullets kicked up dust. Elizabeth, weak but fierce, drew her own pistol from his belt, dropping one assailant with a precise shot to the chest. The other fled, but not before grazing Jack's shoulder, blood blooming hot and sticky. They holed up in a cave, adrenaline fading to pain. You could have left me, she said, bandaging him with trembling hands. Couldn't, he admitted, wincing. Not now. Her touch lingered, eyes searching his. That night, under a blanket of stars, the desert cold drove them together. She shivered. He pulled her close without a word. At first, she stiffened, unaccustomed to tenderness, but slowly melted, her head on his chest. Don't fall for a ghost like me, kid, she whispered. Too late, he murmured, heart racing at the truth. In the border town of Rio Bend, they took a room at the Dusty Inn. The proprietor, a grizzled old-timer, named Zeke, eyeing them suspiciously, but taking the coin. Zeke, with his tales of lost loves and frontier woes, became an unlikely confidant, slipping them extra grub and warning of bounty hunters sniffing around. You'd have looked like trouble wrapped in heartache, he grumbled. But his eyes twinkled with understanding. As Elizabeth bathed behind a tattered screen, Jack sat rigid, the splash of water conjuring images, the curve of her neck, scars like badges of honor. She emerged, hair damp and loose, vulnerability softening her edges. Join me for a drink, she said, passing the whiskey bottle, the liquor burned, loosening barriers. Why help me? She pressed. Jack stared into the glass. Killed that boy Billy. He was rustling for his sick ma, needed the money for ADOC. I thought he was drawing, but it was just a locket. Followed orders, protected Hargrove's empire. Now, I don't know if I'm a lawman or just a killer in a tin star. Her hand found his, calloused yet gentle. That makes you more man than most. The law's corrupt shields the rich, crushes the rest. The air crackled. She leaned in, lips brushing his an attentive kiss, tasting of whiskey and longing. But she pulled back, eyes shadowed. Not like this. Not when I'm still chained to the past. She slipped downstairs to the saloon, leaving Jack alone with his turmoil. The phantom taste of her fueling a fire he couldn't quench. Dawn shattered the peace with gunfire. For bounty hunters led by a scar-faced brute named Rafe Colton, infamous for collecting ears as trophies stormed the inn, alerted by a traitorous Barfley. Zeke shouted a warning, buying precious seconds. Jack burst from the stable, heart thundering as shots echoed. Inside, Elizabeth had overturned.